Hey guys, how's everyone doing? It's Devious Nitro here, or if you want, you just call me Nitro. And today we're back for another What If video. Okay, so today we're doing another suggestion video, or I guess it would be better to call it a request. Yeah. Okay, so this What If was actually requested by the user named Gilberto Laura. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, but yeah, they, as you can see by the title, they requested for me to make this What If on what if Vegeta trained at an early age. Alright, and before we jump straight into it, I need to apologize for not uploading last week. It was actually because I was working on this, but I don't know, I guess I had some kind of, I had writer's block or something, because it was like I was writing like a paragraph a day, like it wasn't good. And some days I wasn't even writing, like I don't know, I couldn't write. But yeah, anyway, so it doesn't matter because I'm back with this What If, and yeah, hopefully it's a good one. Yeah, so due to me having trouble writing this What If, as well as, you know, it being a long time since I've done a What If, like it's been like what, a month or so. I'm gonna have to get used to writing What Ifs again. So yeah, it might take a while. So if you go from that video to this video and there's kind of a drop in quality with like the scripting, I apologize, as you know, it's been a bit of a while since I've you know, done a What If. Anyways, with that all said, I hope you guys can enjoy this video. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Alright, so as we'll be making such a drastic change to our beloved Saiyan Prince, in order to make this change believable, we'll have to slightly tweak a certain encounter he'll have in his childhood. This would be his encounter with Beerus. After seeing Beerus literally force his father, who at this point we can at least assume he had thought of threat pretty highly, underneath his feet, here Vegeta would be rendered speechless, though it wouldn't be out of fear. Instead, he was astonished, as he couldn't even begin to fathom the power behind this mysterious being. He would see Beerus walking to leave and would run to Beerus, demanding to know how he had gotten so strong. Beerus, already angry and in quite a hurry to leave, would decide to give him a quick answer if it meant that he could leave faster. Vegeta would hear him say, "Training," before losing consciousness. Okay, so seeing as how Vegeta went so long believing in the Super Saiyan myth that he had heard as a child, I would say it's not too out of the question to assume that Vegeta would have taken a lot at face value as a child. I mean, this is the same guy who, after seeing Goku attain UI, thought he could reach that level after just taking a couple of heavy blows. Anyways, after this encounter, what Beerus had said to him would stay with him, as he would keep pondering over it for quite some time before eventually acting on it. At first, he wouldn't understand how simply training could get someone to that level, especially as he had his own training regime he had to take part in regularly. He would think to himself that perhaps his own training were too easy and he needed tougher opponents. Unfortunately, that wasn't possible, as the only opponents that were available at his current venue were Cybermen. But what if he were to utilize the massive resources he had at his disposal, thanks to being a part of Frieza's force? Or would it be King Cold's force, as Frieza may have not taken over yet? It doesn't really matter anyway, because either way, the outcome would be the same, which is Vegeta would use the large database that he would have access to, thanks to the force's knowledge on so many different planets and species. He would then come up with a plan, which would be to travel to one of these planets to learn what they know about fighting. Perhaps if they had any abilities exclusive to their species, then he may be able to gain that from them. He had read that there were some planets that had their own abilities, such as Yardrat, but he had decided not to go there, as due to them being so widely known, he had deduced that they may not be prepared for them just yet. By they, I'm of course referring to his team, if you can call them that, I guess. But yeah, Nappa and Raditz, with that one Saiyan we saw in the Brody movie, yeah, that's their team right now. After setting up his plan, he would give his team the necessary details, and they'll decide to assist him on his new journey, which is to get to other planets in hopes of learning their secrets, to eventually become the strongest Saiyan of all. So I imagine escaping planet Vegeta would be made vastly easier thanks to Nappa and the other Saiyan. You know what? Let's give him a name for now. CF, alright? CF, cannon fodder, but CF for short. Yeah, so thanks to Nappa and CF, they are able to slip out of the planet without much notice. Oh, sorry, CF's kind of funny. Anyway, from here, they would begin Vegeta's mission and would go from planet to planet in search of those who would teach them their ways. The first planet would be the hardest, as Vegeta and co would still be very Saiyan-like in their appearance and personality, which may intimidate the planet's beings. So it would be up to Vegeta to explain and talk things through. Eventually, I believe he would succeed, perhaps with a sacrifice of his own, like a scouter or battle tactics or something, and from here, he would be brought to the planet's strongest to be trained by them. I imagine he and co would be tasked with many trials they would have to overcome, and eventually they would. After said trials they'd have to endure and surpass, they would finally begin training, and they would all receive fast benefits. As this would be the first planet, I feel as if it would take the longest for them to achieve anything here, and so they would probably spend the most time on this planet than the others that they would eventually traverse to. Living amongst this planet's people would do some good for them in terms of their reputation, as they would become more trusted among the wide populace. They would all begin to encounter changes that would develop over the course of their planetary journey. Perhaps not drastic changes in terms of personality, but subtle changes, such as they would slowly begin to notice that there are other ways of getting things done than just destroying. They could try, talking for example. Eventually, once they had all learnt enough, or perhaps Vegeta had decided that they had learned all they could here, I don't know. The point is, from here, they would move on to their next planet, then the one after that, and so on. Thanks to this new rumour that was spreading of a Saiyan group in search of training, approaching planets would become a whole lot easier, and they would be accepted willingly a lot more often, resulting in less time and resources being wasted on attempting to be accepted. As time passed on, Vegeta's name would become well known throughout space, not to be feared nor hated, but instead respected. He was the traveller who traversed from planet to planet in search of both wisdom and techniques. His reputation, however, would not be the only thing that changed. Vegeta's personality would differ quite a bit from the one we know. If you were to call Vegeta's quietness in main canon a cocky sort of quiet because he knows he can win, then here it would be more so a humble quiet. You see, his many masters had taught him the importance of patience. Here, he had learned to always figure out his opponent's moveset beforehand, never go into a fight you know nothing about the enemy in. He had learned not to underestimate his opponents, as well as never to overestimate himself. Thanks to them, he knows exactly what he is capable of at all times. He no longer thinks like a warrior or Saiyan soldier, but now, he thinks like a martial artist. No longer does he think like the first person who strikes has the advantage. He now needs to always know what his opponent's abilities are before thinking of a counter strategy. Alright, you know what? You guys get the picture, right? Alright, so I'm about to oversimplify it. He learned to fight smarter, not harder. Essentially, he's had all his flaws minimized. So to counter this, I've decided to make it so, in exchange for all these techniques, he isn't as physically strong as he was in main canon. So come Saiyan Saga, he won't be at the power level as his main canon counterpart. Okay, so this may seem like I just made it to nerf him, as he'd be insanely overpowered at this point of the story if I had him, and, well, you're right. But it does make sense within the story too. Think about it. If he hadn't been fighting all those life or death battles, conquering planets while working under the Frieza Force and such, then he wouldn't have gotten all those Senkais he probably had in the series prior to Saiyan Saga. Same goes for Raditz and Nappa. So in exchange for many techniques and abilities, they now have far less power. At least Raditz is happy though, as this means that now he's on equal or near footing with the rest of his team. And speaking of Raditz, some of you may be questioning how the Sea Fighters would fare against Frieza, or even the androids, as Raditz wouldn't come to recruit Goku. This is actually a simple fix though. Here, Raditz could simply remember that he had a brother and request to be allowed to travel to the planet he had inhabited, to take him with them so he could perhaps join them on Vegeta's journey. And this Vegeta would have no qualms with accepting this, though he would ask Raditz why he hadn't done this earlier. Raditz would respond saying at first he couldn't have cared less for his brother and didn't even care whether he was still alive or not. But over time, he became more and more worried for his brother's outcome. He would say that he had actually been wanting to go for quite some time now, but had decided not to do so in case Frieza's forces had been lurking nearby. Though he had only decided to do so now as they had been off of Frieza's radar for years now, so it was safe to go and find his brother. And so, with Vegeta informing Raditz that they would most likely have gone to another planet by the time he had come back, Raditz would head off to Earth in search of Goku. So Vegeta and Nappa would continue to train while Raditz had gone to get Goku. Raditz, much like in main canon, would go arrive to see Piccolo. Their meeting would go similarly, yet different to their main canon encounter. By this, I mean Piccolo's dialogue wouldn't really change, like he would still demand who this guy was and why he was so strong. Raditz, however, would respond differently to how he did in main canon. He would greet Piccolo kindly and state his reason for being here, which was he was searching for a warrior named Kakarot. Though Piccolo wouldn't know where he was, Raditz would begin to set its scouter to scan for power levels of a wider radius, but would see Piccolo rise to launch a key attack. He would simply advise him on not doing that, as it would be a mistake he would regret soon after. Piccolo would dissipate his attack, knowing he couldn't hope to land an attack on this being. Raditz would then detect Goku's ki at Kame House and would fly over. On his way, he would comment on how it seemed like his brother hadn't accomplished the mission he was set out to do, though here he would actually be glad. Seems like his many encounters with countless civilizations had changed his outlook on the world. No longer was he one of the 3 battle-hungry war savages. This encounter would actually go far differently than it did in main canon. Well, seeing as Raditz wouldn't come in with the make him join under any circumstances approach, that's to be expected. Raditz would arrive and rush to hug Goku immediately after seeing him. Goku, startled by this sudden showing of affection, would be confused as to why this random man had hugged him. Though, for some reason, he would accept his embrace. He didn't know why he had, but it was as if there was some sort of familiarity with this guy. Deep down, he felt as if he could trust him. Unfortunately, this touching reunion would be interrupted by Krillin pointing out that this newcomer also had a tail. Raditz would then tell Goku that he was his brother and briefly explain his backstory, including the Saiyans, what the Saiyans did for Frieza and how his trio had fled from planet Vegeta in favour of achieving the prince's goal. Goku wouldn't believe it. Not only was he now a member of this alien race called Saiyans, who seemed to sound a lot like bad guys to him, he now also had a brother, though this is where Raditz's kind of personality change takes effect. In main canon, the way Raditz spoke about the Saiyans, as well as portrayed his disgust to how Kakarot had changed to be more like a human, had caused Goku to reject the very thought of being either his brother or a member of an alien race. Here though, Goku could tell that Raditz spoke of the Saiyan race as if he regret their actions, and thanks to Raditz's kind of personality here, well, as well as his tail, Goku would believe and accept Raditz, and begin to somewhat accept his ancestry. Raditz would be surprised by this. He would begin to say how he didn't expect for his brother to be so accepting, but a certain child with a tail would have caught his eye. Goku would then introduce Raditz to Gohan and the rest of his friends. After this, Goku would ask Raditz for why he had come to Earth. Raditz would say that though the reason he came to Earth was supposed to be to recruit him to join them on their quest of power, he admitted that he did have an alternative reason. He would then go on to explain that a while back, he had heard a rumor on a planet that the meteors weren't what really killed the Saiyans, but it was truly Frieza who had done it. After finding this out, he explains that he heard of these dragon orbs or something, which were capable of granting any wish, even resurrection. Once he was able to find out which planet these orbs were home to, he had decided that he was going to revive his fallen family, and had wanted to offer Goku the chance to join him, though he would warn him that Frieza seemed to be getting closer in unveiling the information and whereabouts of these dragon orbs. Goku didn't know about joining the Saiyans permanently or anything, but after hearing that this Frieza guy could potentially be there, he was interested. After all, going on an intergalactic space adventure doesn't sound too bad. With Bulma and Krillin present, the team would remain the same, other than instead of Gohan, Goku would take his place. With Raditz's ship here, Bulma's father would have slightly better technology to work with, and would be able to create a bigger, better ship with more features. Thanks to Raditz's added input, they would probably still end up including a gravity machine for training. Oh, and speaking of training, Raditz, wanting to stay cautious just in case they were to encounter Frieza and his forces, decides to train Goku. This also serves as a way for them to bond and get to know each other more. Though Raditz would assume this would take 2 years, Goku surprises him with his growth, so this only ends up taking a year instead. During said year, Piccolo felt the dramatic increase in Goku's power and decides to swallow his pride to join them in training. After all, he would stand no chance of taking over the world if Goku was leagues stronger than him. Piccolo joining them would allow them all to reap the benefits of an extra training partner, as well as allow Piccolo to catch up. For Goku's power level, I'll keep it simple and say he's roughly the same, or a bit stronger than he was in canon. Despite him not training on King Kai's planet with the ×10 gravity, or with King Kai to gain Kaioken and Spirit Bomb, I would say him training with a vastly superior Raditz helps equalize this. Piccolo wouldn't be too far away from Goku's power, though this all changes once they enter the gravity chamber. Gravity chamber? What? Wait, is that what's called? You know what? Yeah, cool, gravity chamber, whatever. As there would be more people, everyone would see some gains, substantially more than the ones they had received in main canon. In main canon, Goku's power level had jumped from around 8,000 to roughly a staggering, 80 to 85,000. I know a lot say it's 90,000, but due to him possibly using Kaioken before that was measured, I'd like to stay on the safe side and assume it's 85,000 instead. Due to the added training partners, I wouldn't say it's too much of a stretch to say he had gained an additional third of his gains here, capping him off at 113,000. As for Piccolo, assuming he would have started close to Goku, let's say around 6,000, using a 9 times multiplier gets Piccolo to 54,000, giving him an additional half of his gains due to him training with people stronger than him, caps him off at 81,000. As for Raditz, well, let's say he's got to around 130,000, making him the strongest of the three. So for the Frieza Saga, well, other than the different people joining, it would actually go similarly to how it did in main canon, though Frieza had gotten to Namek slightly earlier than our heroes. As for Vegeta, well, let's say that he's also there, much to the surprise of Raditz. Though, due to not being aware of the events that were about to take place, he actually doesn't meet up with the crew, at least not for the majority of it. Instead, once he had an inkling to what was going on, he would begin to assess the situation to gain a better understanding on it. Though this would be far from now, as this would be towards the end of the arc. Anyways, now Goku and Co were in the midst of landing. Now that they had Piccolo, it would be even easier to communicate with the Namekians. Bulma notices this and decides to conduct a plan before they land. She tells them that the plan is to first locate any village or nearby Namekians, then try to peacefully communicate so that they can collect the Dragon Balls. Upon landing, she would check the Dragon Radar and give them the general direction of where the nearby Dragon Balls were. Though once they leave, they are greeted by 2 Frieza soldiers, whom they easily take down. Though Raditz notices their Frieza Force armor and realizes that his worst fears have come true. Frieza was indeed on the planet. They move to the nearest village, where they decide to create a new plan on the go. Raditz, now knowing that Frieza was there, tells them that they must locate the Dragon Balls before him, as any wish he was going these lengths to make would not be good. And so, they decide to indulge in a most common trope and split up to cover more ground. Haha, stupid fools, am I right? Like, who even comes up with this? Anyway, they agree that as long as they all come back with 1, then Frieza won't be able to get his wish. Once collected, they would then meet up back at Bulma's. Goku was the first to find the Dragon Ball at the nearby village. He admittedly wanted to get a peek at this Frieza guy, but he thought he'd at least get a Dragon Ball first. Things also go well on Piccolo's ends, though it takes him a bit longer due to him taking everything in, the scenery, environment and whatnot. Things seem to be going well for our heroes. However, it takes a turn once Raditz arrives at his village. He sees none other than Frieza there. He's with his 2 lackeys, questioning the Namekians present for information. He decides to stay out of sight and waits for his moment to strike. This all plays out similarly to how it does in canon, until Raditz sees his moment. After the Namekian Mori destroys Frieza's scouters, Raditz takes charge and rushes in, using a move he had learned from Goku during their time training. The solar flare. Once everyone was blinded, he would use one of his own moves, well, one that he learned from a planet. He'd create a portal and would push the Namekian and Dende before taking the Dragon Ball and flying away. Frieza would send Dodoria after the thief, though this is exactly what Raditz was counting on. He would fly slow enough for Dodoria to just barely be able to keep up. After they had gotten a fair distance away, Raditz would stop and turn to Dodoria. Dodoria would demand for the Dragon Ball, though Raditz wouldn't respond. He would ask if he remembered him. And at first, Dodoria wouldn't. He would admit that he kind of looked familiar, but would just dismiss him as some lucky survivor of a mission he'd thought he'd completed or something. Their fight would start off fairly evenly, but as the fight progressed and Dodoria began to gradually land more and more heavy hits, it was clear that Dodoria was the stronger of the 2. Well, at least that's what Dodoria thought. After a short while though, Raditz would immediately change the tide of this fight, deciding that he had continued on with his fast for long enough. He would begin to unveil a bit of his abilities, showcasing a few of his offensive techniques and... oh, he's already dead. Yeah, well, with Raditz's crazy new abilities, as well as far superior power level, this match would be a joke to him, so the moment he stopped holding back, he was pretty much dead. After regaining his composure, due to how quick that had ended, he would recollect his Dragon Ball and head to where he had taken the Namekians, to Bulma's. Little did the Raditz know that he had just made his father and his father's team proud by killing the very person who had killed them. Hey guys, Future Nitro here. I'm just gonna have to stop you guys right here because due to this video becoming way too long, like seriously 42 minutes long, I've had to cut this video up into 2 parts. I don't know when I'm gonna upload part 2 because how I'm gonna make these videos is I'm gonna edit the first one and all that to get this up in time for, well, this doesn't even have a flipping time limit because I'm 2 weeks late. So yeah, I need to get this video up as soon as possible, and then I'll start editing and I'll start editing part 2. So I'm not able to put a set date for when part 2 would be uploaded. But I'll try my best to upload it sometime this week. If not, then it should be okay, as I'm planning to upload a couple more videos this week just to, make up for lost time. So yeah, with that all said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I've been making it. It was a dope video to make. And yeah, I hope you guys look forward to part 2. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace out, guys.